What's up, Fight Bananas? It is the TSD Allies here, back again with another banger. And today we have a really exciting one because I am talking my favorite sport in the world. And if we're talking my favorite sport, we gotta change the graphics. Shout out Boxing Bananas now, man. But who I have is one of the brightest prospects coming out of the Southeast. Man, he has a fight coming up on March 7th. Island Fights 87, man. Don't miss that. It's gonna be a banger card. Please welcome Mr. Saben Cura. Saben, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, getting a lot of rest that I need. Been working hard in this training camp, so I'm doing good today so far. Just getting ready for the work later by resting my body.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And last interview we talked about you were talking about wanting to be active for 2025, fighting 2, 3 times this year, man. You're starting pretty early, first quarter of 2025, March 7th, Island Fights 87. You're fighting a real gamed opponent in Aldemar Silva, man. Talk to me about that matchup.
Um, just like doing my research, looking up his previous fights. He's definitely probably my toughest competitor so far. He's got some pop, some zing to his punches. I can see it from the fights that I watched. Uh, Nothing I don't think I can't handle, but I think there's some points that I need to be careful a little bit more than I have. I got to be more defensive, not more, but make sure I stay responsible on my defense and don't run anything. Uh, he's definitely a well experienced fighter that I can't go in there and take lightly.
For sure, man. And with him, you said experience, man. And it's not just like, just time and experience. It's also like the quality of opponents. He's fought guys like Juan Manuel Lopez, world champions like that, Jorge Arce, you know what I mean? So you're getting a guy that has, real pedigree and real guys on his resume, man. You know, and you talked about it. This is like, your toughest opponent yet, man. And in the last two fights, it seems like you're really taking a step up in those opponents, guys that have like 40, 50 fights, man. When do you think, you're taking, how when do you think you're going to be to the next level and you kind of get opponents closer to, your kind of your record?
I think it's a feeling out process. It's gonna have to be what happens the next couple fights, how I do with this guy, how I do with that guy, what works, what doesn't. Because as the competition steps up, there's certain things that I'm not going to be able to get away with. There's certain things I'm going to have to tighten up on. But I think these kind of guys are the people to learn every fight. Not even like even the fights that were easier per se. I learned a lot more in those fights. Um, so I think it just depends on how these next couple fights. I think this year will probably be the feeling out of that in the middle ground of the starting out fighters, and now I'm out at this level of in the middle, figuring out when I can take that step up.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you fought a lot in Biloxi, Mississippi, but this is the first time I believe in almost 2 decades where boxing fights are going to be held in, the Hard Rock Casino, man. How do you feel, fighting in a illustrious like venue like that where HBO boxing was held and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's huge. Whenever I told my friends about it, it was like they were kind of a little like couldn't believe it. Like it's definitely a huge step to be in that type of venue. Um, I mean, I still think the Pensacola Civic Center, it's the biggest place I fought. It's a little bit bigger to me personally because this is where I'm from. So I'm not sure how it is. Once I get there, it'll probably be different because I have to see how it is and everything like that. But it's definitely really cool to be somewhere like that where it's a different kind of environment. Because I mean, I've gone to the casinos before. I like blackjack. Um, but I've never actually been like a selling point at the casino. So it's a cool experience.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I'm excited to be there too because I've actually, we were too young to, be there when HBO fighting boxing was actually there. So to be able to be there for the first boxing fights, in over 2 decades. That's a very big deal, man. When I last talked to you, you just it was just after your victory against Damian Marciano, man. You got that doctor stoppage, I think in third or fourth round, man. Got your initial reaction there, man. You did really well picking and popping, poking, really controlling the range. When you reflect on that performance now, what was the biggest takeaway you got from it?
Just that kind of staying sharp is what I'm gonna need to do going forward. Staying on my, not going in committing too much. I mean, Marciano did when once I got in a little too comfortable. There was a couple small. It wasn't anything big, but those were like the only shots that he caught me with at all. And every small thing can be improved on. So those small little details right there are what I could take away from that and make sure I stay on that type of game plan of picking and popping, and then setting up for those shots later on whenever it's, I don't want to say nothing's 100% safe, but when it's, a little more guaranteed and I can't run into anything.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And with this fight, being in Biloxi, you're from Pensacola. Another Pensacola native is going to be on that card. Someone you know very well. Devin Cushing's fighting on that card. Well, I know that in the last fight you guys were training a lot. Leading up to that. Is that the same for this fight?
Yeah, we're going over there, twice a week for sparring, and then I head over there and train with them on Saturdays, our like off day training, just keeping our heart rate up, doing our runs and everything like that. So we're kind of half my training camp is my own thing with my dad, my coaches and stuff, and then half of it sparring and doing stuff with.
Y- Yeah, man. And one thing about this opponent and that with you and Devin that's connected is that he's fought him before. You know what I mean? Has he given you kind of some advice, or has he kind of helped you like kind of emulate in sparring like what you might be, coming to fight with heading into March 7th?
Currently right now I haven't really got too into it about it. I'm just trying to make sure I get my rounds up, all this other stuff, making sure that I'm ready at a base level first, um, just for anything before I start focusing in on other things. I haven't really asked. I know if I did, they'd tell me whatever. But another thing is they're two different types of fighters. Like if I was to spar Devin, he's a southpaw. He's a little bit taller than him. There's not much he can really do himself that would emulate this guy. So I'm just making sure that I'm trying to stay on top of my regular stuff first, especially when I'm sparring with like Devin or anybody over there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you this fight is at 130 super featherweight, man. And it's interesting because, in today's boxing, the super featherweight division is kind of like a blue collar division where you see a lot of B-side fighters really getting, their kind of, world title fights and stuff like that. Do you see a potential of, fighting at the highest level at 130?
Um, it depends. Like honestly, this isn't my real weight that I should be fighting at. If we're being honest, like I think right now I'm walking around. I think I was telling you earlier. I think I had like a stomach bug at the beginning of my camp, so that could have contributed to it. But I'm walking around about 138 right now. So 130 is a bit too heavy for what I should honestly be fighting at. In the future, I'll probably be going down to 26 or 22, depending on how my body starts changing over the next couple years. That's something that I'll have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it's the same. It's low key the same thing for 126. A lot of there's not a lot of big names, but there's a lot of high quality fighters. Just because there's a lot of equal opportunity, man. When do you think you'll start thinking about high contenderships and championship fights like that?
Um, I'm still young. I'm only 25. I want to make sure I don't rush anything because it's if I take it too soon, that could be my only chance to. So I don't want to just take something and then never get another chance to get up there again. So I definitely want to take my time, but probably within the next couple years, I need to figure it out.
Absolutely, man. And you say that, man, and it's true, man. Boxing is not a forgiving sport. You only get one shot, to really put yourself at the highest level, and if you're not able to take that opportunity, it might just slip away, man. But you and I, Pinoy's, man, Filipino man, it's interesting, man. Ever since Manny Pacquiao retired, it feels like Filipino boxing's in a weird state. Like the only world champions are at strawweight, and no disrespect to the strawweights, but there's no attention on them, man. Why do you think there hasn't been, a real successor to the Pac-Man?
Well, there's that one guy, Megsayo.
Yeah, but he's lost like a few fights, like ever since he dropped the title. That's the only thing.
And then there's the other guy that they've been trying to match with NOA.
Is it
I forgot his name.
Casemiro?
Casimiro, yeah.
Oh yeah, but
So there's a couple guys up there. I think the issue might just be no one's really risen to that level. I think Pacquiao set the bar a little bit too high. I mean, of course, I don't think any fighter, not just Filipino fighter, can really touch that bar. I think that could be part of it, but I don't know. It's something that we'll have to get to that point when we get there.
yeah, for sure. And it's not like there's not like high quality fighters, because there's still top ranked guys in boxing. It's just it seems like it because they're in the lower weight division, the attention's not really on them. Like Manny was the anomaly. Like he was just the superstar who had dynamite hands through 8 divisions, man. Do you think it's just because there's not a lot of big Filipino fighters, is that we're not really getting a lot of exposure like that?
Yeah, I want to say because Pacquiao, he was big, but I think it was more so when he hit that threshold of above like 135. When he started moving up to those bigger weight classes, then he started really catching a little bit more. And I think that was the difference between him and everybody else. And I think that's why, because, naturally, Filipino people are not, you know, we're vertically challenged. We don't get the same weight classes as everybody else. But, and it just so happens that the smaller weight classes don't get as much popularity because there's not as much. I mean, for me, for boxers, I think in general, the smaller weight classes are more skillful and they're more for us to watch. But for the casual fan, they're just seeing two guys that are smaller than them throw punches, and it doesn't look like anything to those people probably.
Yeah, and that sucks because like at least in Asia, the lower weight classes get like a lot of love. It's just in the states, the states want larger than life characters, larger than life boxers, and then just people that are vertically challenged, like you said, me myself included, man. It's just people don't want. It's like they don't want relatable like traits in like their athletes, but you know it's very interesting, man. You're 13-0, 9 stoppages, but your stoppages are not one shot, but it's like an accumulation of punishment, man. When you talk about your fighting style, how can you describe it?
I would say it's a lot more tactical to get that type of stoppage. Like, of course, I'm trying to find that one shot, but I'm not letting myself get caught to try to get that one shot. So typically, it just kind of comes to me as far as the stoppages. I'm not necessarily reaching out there to get a stoppage, but I know a couple of my fights just over the course of a couple rounds, body shot after body shot after body shot. It wasn't one big body shot. I know I had a couple fights where I stopped this guy to the body, but it wasn't one big one. It was just every round it was right back to the body, right back to the body. Couple shots here, couple shots there, back up top. And it got to the point where like on that last round or the second to last round, he has to quit in the corner because it's just too much pain. I think it's more so tactical in the sense of just making sure I'm getting those shots off and not risking my own. Uh, I don't know, risking myself to get those big knockout shots.
For sure, man. And you mention it, man, because what I do like is, the body, a lot of body work. It's not just you, but you and Devin really focus on the body, even when, you're in the real nitty-gritty when, gas tank is drained and stuff like that. You guys are kind of like really digging into the body, man. Was that something that you were kind of, ingrained and taught, once you started boxing?
I wouldn't say once I started, but like definitely once I started like fighting, because whenever you're getting tired, I mean, you gotta assume the other guy. It's kind of like in blackjack. You assume the dealer has a 10 as the card underneath. So I always assume that they got more in the tank than me. Whether they do or not, I doesn't matter. I assume they do. So I'm gonna keep attacking that buyer to keep bringing that down to my level if I am tired, or even if I'm not, I can get them to a point where they're less tired than me, and then I can start taking those big shots.
For sure, man. And my last question before we get into a little game, man. This is outside of the box. This is outside of the fights and stuff. Last week there was a whole debacle with Canelo Alvarez. He was it was like he was about to sign with to fight Terrence Crawford, and then that fell through. And then for some reason out of nowhere, he was in negotiations with Jake Paul, and that looked like he was about to get finalized. And then out of nowhere, he signed a 4-fight deal with Saudi Arabia. What do you think about that whole situation? And what fight were you more looking forward to? Crawford and Canelo, or Canelo and Jake Paul?
Um, the way I look at it, I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know Canelo personally. I think he might have just been trolling Jake Paul. To be honest, I don't know. But definitely the fight that for boxers is gonna be Canelo versus Crawford. Um, Jake Paul doesn't necessarily deserve those kind of shots with a guy like Canelo right now. I think he needs to earn his way there instead of fighting people like Mike Tyson and then just getting a shot with one of the best fighters in the world. Of course, his popularity is going to bring a paycheck, but I think at the end of the day, Canelo's going to get his money either way. So it doesn't matter what paycheck comes from where, he's going to get that money regardless.
Yeah, I kind of agree. When that situation happened, I thought it was a business tactic by Canelo. Like, with the fact that the fight with Jake Paul was nearly done, I think it was a business tactic for him to get more money for Riyadh season and for the Crawford fight. So that's really what I think happened, man. But with Canelo and Crawford pretty much finalized, how do you see that matchup going?
Uh, I don't know. Because Canelo, his last fight was with Munguia, right? Or did he fight someone else after that?
I think he fought Berlanga.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Both of those fights, Canelo didn't look super spectacular. He didn't look bad. Don't get me wrong. But he didn't look like the same Canelo that I've been seeing. So also, I mean, when's the last time Crawford fought now?
I think it was back in August, but he only fought once in 2024.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to say. There's been a big kind of layoff between the two, so I can't put my. I mean, just based off my own knowledge, I think Canelo's the bigger fighter. I think Canelo's a smart fighter. I think he can use his size, use his body, and I think it would go to Canelo. But I don't know how things go in like over time, to be honest.
Yeah, I like the one thing, like, it's a sexy fight on paper. It's just I Terrence Crawford has to move up 14 pounds, and 14 pounds is a lot in boxing.
Hmm.
Especially as you move up into heavier weight classes, that weight jump is just increases. Like, you know how it is. So, like, that's the only thing I'm pretty skeptical about. But they're gonna get my money, so it really doesn't matter,
Yeah.
man. But Saban, before I let you go, man, I want to play a little game. Kind of get your boxing knowledge going, kind of get your opinion on stuff, man. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna blind rank some boxers, man. We're gonna blind rank 5 boxers, 5 pound for pound boxers. We're gonna rank them 1 to 5. You're not gonna know who's coming next. You good with that?
Yeah. Let's go.
Anything that any bad opinion, it stays on the internet. It is what it is, man. I'll just tell you right now. All right, so the first boxer I got, man, we got Gervonta Tank Davis.
All right. So are we? Is this okay? Can you answer this? Is this only current or is this all time?
This is no, this is just current.
Oh, okay. So if this is just current, I was about to say if this was all time, he's going at 5. I'm gonna put him at the 2.
Okay.
I think
So
Javante moves at his weight. He's very good at knocking people out at any class right now. I think he can move down, move up. I think he's having a little more time issue getting down like he used to. So maybe he'll be moving up again shortly, and we'll see how that weight goes. But if we're talking pound for pound, I think he's number two right now.
All right, I can respect that. I can respect that. All right, so the next boxer I have on this list, we got the man, Mr. Canelo Alvarez.
Uh, Pound for pound, he tried to move up, tried to fight Bivol, didn't go so well. I think he's good at his weight class right now. He's a big fighter, but I don't think he has the ability to move up and have that same type of success. So I'm gonna go four.
Oh shit. Okay, okay, I like that. I like that because I will say this about Canelo. I love Canelo and I'm a big Canelo fan, but I think that his performances have been getting kind of safe and complacent since that Bivol loss. I think he's
Hmm.
trying to play it safe and fighting this like real pressure selective punch style that is not really sexy and it's also not showing like fully what he can do. That could
Yeah.
also be age, but like that's just my opinion. It's not his last four fights have not been the most impressive. So
Hmm.
I can understand four. I would
Yeah,
put him at three.
we're talking about pound for pound right now. So
All
that's
right.
why I'm like you
So
asked me
like,
5 years ago, he's probably one, but you
oh
know.
yeah, dude. Like when he went undisputed, I was like, bro, he's the best boxer in the world. Like
Yeah.
guaranteed. All right. So the next guy is gonna be someone he's actually fighting in September. We're talking Mr. Terrence Crawford.
Uh I'll go I'll go three. I would put him at the one, but I got a feeling there's someone I'm holding that one spot for, so we'll hold it. I'll put him at three just because I think pound for pound, he's better than if Canelo had to go down to his weight class, he's stomping Canelo. But since he's going up, that's why I think Canelo's winning.
For sure.
So if we're talking about pound for pound, I'm gonna go Terrence at three.
I get that because let's just say we're talking about resumes and we're talking pound for pound what he's done jumping up. He's been undisputed at two weight classes, something
Hmm.
that only one other person has done. So like that in itself shows you that his fighting style and his power translates to the next weight class. So I definitely understand that. So you're holding out hope and you're gonna hate me. Like low key, you're gonna borderline hate me. So it is what it is. The next guy's Devin Haney.
Five.
Okay.
I mean, Devin Haney is very good. Don't. I'm not putting him there like just quick. I mean, he did have a bad performance against Garcia. I don't know exactly what happened, why he. I had so much confidence that he was gonna just destroy Ryan Garcia. Of course, there's all the issues with the drugs and all that other stuff and whatever Ryan Garcia was on, but it did disappoint me how much I assumed how much I knew about the sport, and I was like telling people don't bet on Ryan Garcia. There's no point. You're just gonna lose whatever money, and then to for Devin Haney to have that kind of performance. Um, but as of right now, until I see him come up and figure it out after that breakdown, he's gonna be at the five.
Saban, you're gonna hate me so bad because
It's
that's
not
not the one I was talking about that you're gonna hate me, bro. So what's the last spot we have? Is it
number
one?
one.
You got Jake
Oh
Paul at number
no,
one. You got Jake Paul at number one, bro.
no man,
You got
that's
El
crazy.
Gallo, bro. But like, okay, skills aside, I will give him one step of credit is that he's actually fighting. He's progressed as a boxer. I just can't. I don't like the tactics in terms of how he's going about his fight. So I don't like him fighting Mike Tyson when he
No.
can barely move. I don't like that he's fighting. Mike Perry, the bare knuckle boxer who where bare knuckle boxing doesn't translate into the sweet science. So
Yeah.
I can respect his skills. I just can't respect the matchmaking. That's what I really can't respect.
Yeah, I mean I've always said I don't think he's bad. A lot of people like I think whenever he first started like fighting and people were asking me, "You think you can beat Jake Paul?" And I'm like, "No, he's like 200 pounds. He's not a bad fighter. Like I specifically remember when he first started, he was training with like Shane Mosley. He was actually putting in his work. Like he was paying his dues. He wasn't just fighting bums and getting wins and like flexing like he was the best boxer ever. He was paying his dues. He was working. He was training with these guys. He was making sure that he was getting the right type of work. Um, I never thought that he was bad, but it is the business side of it moves that he's making that makes it a little bit hard to respect.
100%. I think that, and that's what the biggest thing is, like, with boxing, it's a lot about it's a big respectable sport. Like this, boxing is a lot about respect more than like other combat sports. I think it's you got to really respect, the legends and the way that he kind of went about, especially this Mike Tyson fight, the negotiations. It really put a real stain on the sport, in my opinion, man.
Mhm.
But Saban, I kind of feel bad because that was I kind of screwed you there. So what I'm gonna do, I made an impromptu list. This is all time pound for pound. No
Okay.
jokes, no crazy names. These are just names that could be in the discussion for all time pound for pound. So I'll start off simple. This is only five fighters again. We're gonna start with Triple G Gennady Golovkin,
Uh, so this is all time.
all time.
Okay.
I'll give you
I
okay,
think
and I'll make it easier. It's all time, not like like far back in history. I'll just say all time in the 2010s to 2020s.
okay.
Give you a better idea.
I think Triple G was probably one of the best pressure fighters of all time, not just like of recent time. I've been actually watching him a lot for sparring and stuff and kind of trying to emulate some of his like pressure stuff for just the way he goes in, the way he moves, the way he controls the ring. I actually thought that he beat Canelo. I think one or two I think he beat Canelo when they fought. So I think I'm gonna go four for Triple G. Um, I definitely like the way he fights. It's not super flashy. It's not super fast. Nothing super quick, but it's his timing and the way that he controls his opponents and the way that he gets them where he wants them, and then just lets off a big shot and drops them was like it looks effortless.
Yeah, 100%. And I think too is just what also contributed is he probably had one of the best jabs at that time. Like in his prime,
Mhm.
his jab to set up every shot was almost picture perfect because it comes at different angles. He had different variations and stuff like that. So I can definitely agree with that. So you said number four?
Yep, put him
That's a
at the four.
respectable number. All right. So the next one I have is someone who's currently fighting still. We got the monster, Naoya Inoue.
Okay, so this is pound for pound. I think the way that he's moved up from I want to say 108. I don't remember where he started, but he's at 126 right now. Um, I'm gonna go number two. He's my number one of people right now. But if we're talking an all-time list, actually, I'm gonna take that back. All-time list, I'll put him at three. There's probably other fighters. Um, I think he's the best pound for pound fighter right now, and that's who I was holding the number one spot for on the other list because I think this is the main guy I watch and try to get stuff from because he carries his power from 108 all the way up to 26, and honestly he can probably still take it to 130, and we'll see about 35 later on if he decides to go up there, but he's already unified. Has he unified twice yet, or is it just the one?
He's done twice. He's done
Yeah,
twice.
so that's something only done by one other pound for pound fighter. uh so he's got to be one of the best pound for pounds so already.
Yeah, I agree, man. And he's definitely I agree with you too. He's my favorite fighter to watch today. Is he's the only fighter that really continues to wow me like when I watch him live. Like the performance, like the overall craft of the performance is something to like really be amazed by. So I like that. I like number 3, man. Next fighter I got on the list, a lot of people's goat, man, Mr. Floyd Money Mayweather.
Yeah, he's a lot of people's goat, but he ain't mine. I'm gonna put him at two because no one could beat him. At the end of the day, say what you want, he's arguably the best one of all time. I mean, I still think he probably is the best boxer of all time. He's just not my favorite. He's number two. He also, if we're talking pound for pound, he didn't start at those smaller weight classes like someone like Pacquiao or Inoue. So as a pound for pound fighter, he's number two to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's respectable. That is respectable. I also think he was never undisputed either. So that's a big thing, undisputed nowadays too, especially today. That is a big deal. Everybody's trying to strive for that. And he never was a guy that was trying to strive to get all four belts or even all three back in the 90s before the WBO was there. But listen, man, was this painting right here really says it all. That's I know you know what fight that is. That painting right there says it all, man. But next fighter I got. So you have 1 and 5 left, I think. You have
Again,
one and
yep, it
five
was the
left.
same thing with the last list. I had 1 and 5.
Yeah, and I screwed you. My bad. I screwed you so bad. But the next fighter I got is Miguel Cotto.
Okay, I think that's an easy number 5. Miguel Cotto had one of the best jabs ever. He's a good pressure fighter, just like Triple G. I think Triple G was better. I think Miguel Cotto was one of the best of his era, but he also got beat by the other two best of his era of Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. So I can't put him above those guys. So he's definitely gonna have to sit at the 5.
Yeah, and at least with this list, 5 is not bad because we're talking all the time, and just compared to the resume is historic, but just compared to their resume, his accomplishments, they've had done more extraordinary things than Miguel Cotto. So it's very very understandable. Number one, this came out to be a good list because number one, I got Mr. Manny Pacquiao.
Yep. And I would have put him there if you'd gave him as the first name or the last name. It wouldn't have mattered. I think so. When you look at pound for pound, no matter what you say, Pacquiao fought Mayweather at, was it 47?
Yeah,
That's not really Pacquiao's weight. Like I know he went up and fought at 54. I know he went up and fought those guys. I know he fought at 47 for a good portion of his career. But he started at, I want to say, 108 as well. 147 was more so Floyd's weight class at the time than Pacquiao. Pacquiao's still not even cutting weight to make that. So when they fought, it's not even Pacquiao's real weight class. I think if he was actually like cutting weight like a normal fighter, which he didn't ever do because he went up, he probably would have fought at like 35, honestly. And for that, his pound for pound will always be the best of all time. It doesn't matter we're talking about. The way that he moved weight classes, 8 divisions, it speaks for itself.
yeah, and this, I mean, it could be me being biased, but like you said, the resume speaks for itself. Like Pacquiao did what people thought was impossible: go up 8 weight divisions, bro. Like put on nearly 40 pounds, or try to put on fight 40 pounds up from his starter weight class. It's unbelievable. And then the run that he went on around 2007 to 2009, that's like arguably the greatest speed run I've ever seen. You know, stopping Ricky Hatton in the second round, or stopping De La Hoya first, stopping Ricky Hatton in the second round, and then brutalizing Miguel Cotto for like 11 rounds, dominating Antonio Margarito. Like that whole run, that four fight right there is like Hall of Fame worthy. That 4 fight run is
Yeah,
Hall of Fame worthy.
beating one of those guys is Hall of Fame worthy. Just
Exactly.
in the fashion that he did.
And he did it, and he did that in like 2 years, 2 3 years. So like, yeah, like that definitely is like, man, I mean, number one, and personally, he is my favorite fighter of all time, point blank, period.
Yeah, I
But
think the reason I kind of gravitate to Inoue right now is because he reminds me a lot of him. He's a lot more like he's sharper than Pacquiao. He's not as wild as Pacquiao was, but he has that same kind of bounce in his step and his footwork, and that's why I kind of really like the way Inoue fights, and I think I can take a lot from that because he's a more tight, sharp version of Pacquiao. I don't know if he's better, but he's definitely sharper.
yeah, I definitely agree because, like you said, it's like he's almost like mechanical. Everything's like kind of put into place a little properly. Whereas Pacquiao was really good with that burst of speed and explosion, throwing out wild angles and stuff like that, really catching
Mhm.
you where you can't really see. So I definitely see a lot of similarities. I didn't even think about that. Like they do have a lot of like in terms of like athleticism and kind of like finishing sequences, they're very very similar. I didn't really think about that. So you really put me onto something. I'm not gonna lie. But listen, man, Saban, before we go, man, first and foremost, thank you again for taking the time to talk to me, man. You know, I want you to tell the fans, what can they expect March 7th, Island Fights 87, when you take on Aldemir Silva, in Biloxi, Mississippi.
I think we can expect a nice, fun fight. I'm gonna make sure it's entertaining. It's gonna be fun to watch at the end of the day. But I'm just gonna go out there and do what I always do, and whatever happens, happens. But I've always been an entertainer. I want to make sure it's an entertaining fight. That's the point that I always try to make.
Absolutely, man. And last fight you came out to Bye 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 by NSYNC. You already know what you're coming out to on March 7th.
No, this is the part that takes the most planning for me. I love coming out to some wild walkout song because everyone expects you to come out to some hard type of whatever rap, whatever. I like coming out to something that like no one would come out to. So I'll have to figure it out.
That's funny. And you got the ring gear already set or not yet?
I think my dad's working on it right now. So I think we're still working on like sponsors and stuff like that and all that other stuff. So we haven't gotten it all set up just yet.
About to look fire, man. It's about to look fire. But Saban, again, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to me, man. Fighting, you're getting off to a hot start in 2025 in the first quarter, and I'm looking forward to following you for the rest of the year.
Yeah, thank you, man. And actually, we would have if that one Island Fights at the Civic Center had been pro, we would have probably fought in January. So, all
Oh man, hey, but hey, we got it done now, and I'm looking forward to it, man. So good luck on March 7th, brother.
right, man. Appreciate it.